Back again, it's been a minute. Today's lesson is titled Israel Our Slavery, Christ Our Savior. What we're about to go through are the prophecies within our book. Within Deuteronomy chapter 28. And these prophecies are about Israel and the specific blessings and the specific curses that would come upon us if we are to keep the Most High's commandments. Let me get rid of that notification. And the specific curses that will come upon us as a nation, as a people, if we walk away from the Most High God's commandments. The Most High God chose Israel, us, as his chosen people, that he would be with, that he would bless, that he would redeem. And needless to say, we've walked away from his commandments. We are in a world where they tell us that the law is dead. You don't have to go by the Old Testament. The commandments, they don't count. Things of that nature. And these very things are the things that has ended us up suffering the curses that are written within our book, within our Bible. Our Christ, the beautiful thing about it is after he created us, after he foretold and understood that we would walk away from his commandments, he made a promise and he fulfilled it. And that promise is that he would come to redeem us, which is soon to come. He came in the flesh to offer us redemption, an opportunity to come back to our commandments, back to our book of law. And we haven't as a people. So we are indeed the lost sheep of Israel. I'm going to open up Deuteronomy 28. We're going to read through the entire chapter. And we're going to understand for ourselves the blessings that we could be a part of. And we're going to understand clearly the curse that we're under from walking away from our Most High God's commandments. We're going to start reading at the top of Deuteronomy 28. This lesson here is probably one of our most important ones in terms of understanding our history, who we are. Understanding this book is our history book as a people. Deuteronomy 28. I'll start reading. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, and to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. That was his intentions for us. He chose us as his people. He intended for us to be set on high above all nations of the earth. He intended for us to be at the top. 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto thee, unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Now, all these blessings. Let me stop right there and let's go to 1 Kings. And I want to read exactly what all these blessings are that our Most High God is showing us. I actually want to show the heights that we went to as a nation. Go to 1 Kings 10. I'm going to read 1 through 9. 1 Kings 10, 1 through 9. Let's look at how great we were when we kept his commandments as a nation. I'm going to start reading at 10. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, our great king, the wisest man to ever walk the earth. There has never been a man as wise as Solomon, never will be. And this is how we rose to greatness under our King Solomon. Concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. Solomon was wise. She, the queen of Sheba, came to prove Solomon. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels. When they used to come and see Solomon, they used to come with gifts and offerings. She came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices, and very much gold, and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. So she came and shared all that was in her heart. Everything that she had on her heart to inquire, she asked the great wise Solomon, our king. And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king, which he told her not. So he shared everything with her. He shared his wisdom with Queen Sheba. Check out what happened. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up unto the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. She was blew away by the wealth, by the splendor of Israel under the leadership of our great King Solomon. We were at the top of all nations. And she said to the king, we're picking up at 6, it was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thy acts. Word got way back to her, the queen of Sheba, of how great and wise Israel was under the leadership of Solomon, the great King Solomon. And she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in my own land of thy acts, of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words. She ain't believe it, right? Until I came and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told to me. So even what she heard, she came and saw for her own eyes. We were even greater as a nation than what she even heard. Howbeit I believed not the words until I came and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told to me. And thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are thy servants, which shall stand continually before thee, and that bear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore he made thee king to do judgment and justice. Just wanted to touch briefly on how wise and how great we were. Even Queen Sheba testified of it here in 1 Kings, 10th chapter. You can finish reading on your own. But I'm going to get back to the script, which is in Deuteronomy. We left off at 3. I'm going to pick up reading 28 and 3. As the Most High explains to us. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, and the increase of thine kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. I'm going to do my commandments, because I want this for my house at least. And if enough of us come back to these commandments, we'll begin to live out this first part of Deuteronomy 28. Blessed shall thy basket be and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Most High is going to be with us. The treasures of heaven will be unlocked unto us. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and shall flee before thee 7 ways. He gonna fight for us. Let's read about that. Let's go to Joshua chapter 21. Let's go to Joshua chapter 21 right quick. Let's drop anchor on that. And we're going to read 42 through 45 right quick, just so we can know how the Most High God will fight for us. We're in 21, and we're going to read 42 through 45. These cities were every one with their suburbs round about them. Thus were all these cities. So we were surrounded, right? And the Most High gave unto Israel all the land which he spared to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it, and dwelt therein. And the Most High gave them rest round about. So all these cities all around them, he gave them rest. We overtook all these cities. We were on top. And the Most High gave unto Israel all the land which he sware to give them unto their fathers, and they possessed it and dwelt therein. 44. And the Most High gave them rest round about, according to all that he sware unto their fathers. And there stood not a man of all their enemies before them. The Most High delivered all their enemies into their land. They failed not aught of any good thing which the Most High had spoken unto the house of Israel. All came to pass. I just wanted to read that so we can understand clearly. The Most High fights for us. We left off at 7. We picking back up at 8. The Most High shall command the blessings upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all thou settest thine hand to, whatever you set your hand to do, the Most High is going to bless it. Stick to his commandments. And he shall bless thee in the land which the Most High thy power giveth thee. The Most High shall establish thee an holy people upon unto himself. He shall establish us a holy people unto himself of all the other nations. He shall establish Israel. And he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways. 10. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Most High God, Ahia. We worship Ahia. We don't worship Baal, Molech. We don't worship none of them. We worship Ahia. We don't call on no other God. Ahia. And we know his name. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Most High, and they shall be afraid of thee. 11. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body. We're going to be blessed. We're going to have abundant children. And in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground. That's your food, your cattle, that's your meat. In the land which the Most High swear unto thy fathers to give thee. The Most High shall open unto thee his good treasure. This what we could be getting if we keep his commandments. The heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all thy work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Let's drop anchor right there. Let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings 10, and we're going to elaborate on that. Lending and not borrowing. 1 Kings 10. And we pick right back up. We're dropping anchor at 12. Deuteronomy 28 and 12. But right now, we're going to 1 Kings 10th chapter. I'm going to read 23 through 29. So, King Solomon, we may go to King Solomon often throughout this because King Solomon is our greatest king. He took Israel to the heights of the most wealthy and wisest nation upon the whole earth, worshiping the Most High God's name, Ahaya. Let me read. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. And all the earth sought Solomon to hear his wisdom. The whole earth used to come to Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver and vessels of gold. This is what people used to bring to hear Solomon's wisdom. And garments and armor and spices, horses and mules, a rate year by year. A rate year by year. They used to pay taxes to Israel, the world, a rate year by year. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,000. Man, let's read about how wealthy our King Solomon was in Israel. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he bestowed in the cities for chariots, and with the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver to be in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars made he to be as the sycamore trees that are in the vale, for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt. He had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn. The king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. So his merchants used to get the linen yarn at a price. That means for the low, you know. Where we leave off at? 29. And a chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and an horse for 150. And so for all the kings of the Hittites and for the kings of Syria, did they bring them out by their means. You see, the nations around them, they would bring to Solomon by their means. Ain't that heavy? That's how heavy we were under the rulership of our great King Solomon. Let me get back to Deuteronomy 28 and get to reading these blessings that we should be upon, that should be upon us. We left off at 12. I'm picking up at 13. And the Most High shall make thee the head and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that, man, this should make us sick to our stomach. Listen to this. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Most High thy power, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them. You can't tell me these commandments is done away with and you living in piss poor conditions. Wait till we finish reading. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left. Don't veer to the right or to the left. Keep the commandments. Study your law. Or go after other gods to serve them. Nah. You see how blessed we should be. You see how we're blessed. The Most High written out for us that we should be. And we have evidence that we rose to that pinnacle under our great King Solomon. After his dad, King David, paved the way for him, who was a man after the Most High's own heart. He had a son, Solomon, who exceeded him in wealth and took Israel to the heights of the greatest nation on earth. Like the Most High wrote for us and meant for it to be for us. Now let's keep reading. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. If you don't do them, listen to this. Listen carefully. And you should be able to identify yourself and your people with these curses. Listen to what happens if you don't do them. And overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. This means the Most High God will turn his hand against you. You'll be cursed. Cursed shalt thy basket shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body. The fruit of your body gonna be cursed. Your children are gonna be cursed. And thy fruit of thy land. Do you even know how to grow fruit? Do you even know how to grow food? That's how far away from the Most High God you are. The increase of thine kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. All we got to do is look into our ghettos. The Most High shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, rebuke, and all thou settest thine hand to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, because we walked away from his commandments, whereby thou hast forsaken me. We forsake the Most High God. We walked away from his commandments. We started talking about this book dead. We started talking about the law dead. We started talking about the commandments don't count. We started talking about we could just live off of grace and off the fruits of the Spirit. The Most High shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. Pestilence. Let's read about pestilence. Let's go to 1 Chronicles, chapter 21. 1 Chronicles, chapter 21. Let's read about pestilence. And I'm going to read. First Chronicles 21, and I'm going to read 14 through 16. So the Most High sent pestilence upon Israel, and there fell of Israel 70,000 men. And the Most High sent an angel unto Jerusalem to destroy it. And as he was destroying, the Most High beheld, and he repented him of the evil. This angel was doing so much damage that the Most High had to tell him to slow down. Slow down. Slow down. My wrath is heavy, but slow down. And said to the angel that destroyed, it is enough. Stay now thine hand. And the angel of the Lord stood by the threshing floor of Onan the Jebusite. And David lifted up his eyes and saw the angel of the Lord stand between the earth and the heaven, having a drawn sword in his hand stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders of Israel, who were clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces to beg the Most High to have mercy. We'll come back to the commandments. We'll stop sinning. We'll come back. And behold, when they came back, right, David bare his son, Solomon, and the tables turned. And the Most High started granting us these blessings from Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14 that we read. We started living in that. But we witnessed and experienced right here in Chronicles 21, 14 through 16. First Chronicles 21, 14 through 16. We started witnessing these curses. Pestilence killed 70,000 of us. This is what the Most High guarantees us. We've been through plenty of slaughters like that. Even today, we can liken ourselves to pestilence. Let's pick back up. I left off at 21. Deuteronomy 28. Picking up at 22. The Most High shall smite thee. The Most High shall smite thee with a consumption and with a fever and with an inflammation, diseases, fever, sick. You know, like AIDS and HIV hit our town, hit our community. You know how every time the weather dropped, the flu hit us. You know what I'm saying? With an extreme burning and with the sword and with blasting and with mildew. We don't just be living in nasty conditions because we walked away from the commandments. And people will say, our God loves everybody. Our God ain't no God of hate. Our Most High God wrote us a script. And if we stick to it, we'll reap the blessings of Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. We walk away from his commandments. We walk away from his law. We walk away from his book, his way. We start living out this stuff because he walks away from us. We want him to keep blessing us, and we ain't blessing him by doing his word. Let me pick up. And they shall pursue thee without perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Most High shall make the rain of thy powder, of thy land powder and dust. You ain't going to be able to grow nothing. It's going to be a drought. You ain't going to be able to eat right. From heaven, he ain't going to allow it to rain on you. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Most High shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. And you see all the stuff that he had for us and the curses that will be upon these other nations on our behalf, we going to suffer them. Now we fleeing. We coming in one way and fleeing 7 ways. And shall be removed into all kingdoms of the earth. We shall be removed from our kingdom unto all kingdoms of the earth. We spread out everywhere. We have no homeland. We just Israel by name now. We don't got no land to go back to. You look at Israel, there's all Edomites in there. That's not our land anymore. It ain't going to be our land until the Most High come and redeem it again, as is prophesied in this book. 26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The Most High will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emeralds. We know what the botch of Egypt is: slavery, bondage, and with the emeralds, and with the scab, and with the itch. You're just going to be uncomfortable. Whereof thou canst not be healed. You can't even be healed from it. 28. The Most High shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Don't that sound like us? Just angry, mad, blindness, astonishment of heart, no love for one another. We'll run up in each other's cribs so we can eat. We'll take from each other. No love, madness. 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. We ain't going to be able to see. We ain't going to be able to tell day from night. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, ruined evermore, and no man shall save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, listen to this, and another man shall lie with her. Ain't this going on all in our communities? Ain't this going on all in our music? I did this with your woman. I did this with your wife. Catch me riding with your woman. Catch me riding with another woman's wife. Look at, and we worship that stuff. We worship the curses in this book. This is crazy. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. You're going to build you a house. You're going to be driven from your own house. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and thou shalt not gather the grapes. You don't work till your hands get tired. And you ain't going to be able to eat out of these hands. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. So your meat going to be taken from you. People going to eat in your face. Thine donkey shall be violently taken away from before thy face. You ain't going to have no transportation. Your donkey going to be taken away like a repossession. You know, a donkey is what they ride on, they transportation. Every time you secure a vehicle, somebody going to steal it. You know, you're going to fall behind on your payments and it's going to get snatched. You know, these are the curses that we're up under. When you translate this into today, that's what I'm doing for you. That's what the Most High is doing for you through his spirit. The Ruach Kadash, the Holy Spirit, is translating this into today for you. These are the curses we live up under. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies. You ain't gonna have no good clothes. We're gonna be walking around in rags. You know, sheep, they take the wool from the sheep and make garments out of it. You know? I mean, our clothes gonna be rags. If you could hear my children up, pardon them. This live action. I ain't gonna make them be quiet. I'm gonna just talk a little louder. But let me get back to our script. And thou shalt have none to rescue them. 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Ain't that what happened in slavery? and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day. Ain't kidnappings going on through our hoods? We're going to be missing our children. Ain't our kids being taken from us and put in foster care? Things of that nature. Ain't we doing so poor as parents that we got to put our children up for adoption? Shabbat Shalom, Alyssa Bryant. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath. And there shall be no might in thine hand. You're going to fall weak. You're just going to fall weaker and weaker. 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. The fruit of thy land, another nation going to come and eat from it. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Always. You're going to be oppressed and crushed. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, for which thou shalt see. When we look around, it's going to make us angry what we're looking at. The conditions that we're in, we're going to be angry because of it. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to be angry with each other. We're going to fight each other. Let me plug this phone up. Give me 1 second. We're going to be beefing with each other. We're going to hurt each other. We're going to get so poor that we're going to start taking and stealing from each other. We ain't going to stick together no more. We'll no longer be a nation. It's going to be every man for himself, every house for himself. Sound familiar? Come back to commandments, and we can break these curses like that. We can be Israel. We can be Israel again at any given time. We can start reading this book. We can start living by this book. We can reverse the curse. 35. As a matter of fact, let me drop anchor. And let me keep reading. 35. The Most High shall smite thee in thy knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed from the sole of thy foot until the top of thy body. You know, like varicose veins, things of that nature. Y'all better be paying attention. These curses are real. From the sole of thy feet to the top of thy body. He shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed. From the sole of thy foot to the top of thy body. Man, you don't want the Most High going against you. The Most High shall bring thee. We have 36. The Most High shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. There go your slavery. There goes our slavery. Shall bring thou and thy king unto a nation thou hast not known. And there shalt thou serve other gods. Wood, you know that crucifix, that Christian crucifix. When we serve a dead Jesus and we only worship the dead Jesus, you know, and they teach us pagan stuff like do away with the law and you good under grace, you know, and stone, you know, like the black stone. That's, oh man, wood and stone. Let me read that again. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Wood represents Christianity. Stone represents Islam. In the eastern corner of Kaaba an ancient building, a grand mosque in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia. You know, the Muslims, the Nation of Islam, they got this stone, right? And they say this stone is a black stone. They say this stone fell from heaven during the time of Adam and Eve. And they have this stone and they put it in a corner of their great building, their great mosque in Saudi Arabia. We're talking about the Muslims, the Nation of Islam. And they worship this stone. Those are your Muslims. The wood, the cross, that's Christianity. Religions. We're going to be introduced to religions that we don't come from. Let me pick up. We had 36, 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations. They're just going to be talking about us. We're going to be a great story of how great we were and enslaved we are not. We're going to be a proverb. People are going to look at us and learn from us what not to do. We're going to be a proverb. That's heavy. Where we leave off at? And a byword among all nations, whither the Lord thou shalt carry thee. Meaning we're going to be spread among all nations. We're going to be driven from our nation. We're going to be spread among all nations. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in. For the locust shall come and consume it. Every time we try to plant a seed, it's going to get snatched from us. We ain't going to be able to put two pennies together. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes. We're going to be slaves. We're going to be building for other people. We're going to be growing other people food. And they're going to give us the leftovers and the slop, you know, and teach us how to make food out of leftovers and give us a title for it like soul food, you know. And the worm shall eat them. 40. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts. But thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Captivity is jail. You're going to have sons and daughters, and they're going to give you heartache because you ain't bring them up in your commandments. Guess what they're going to do? Come up breaking the law, ganging, you know, shooting each other, going to jail, going to early graves. I hope somebody listening. 42. This is crazy. All thy trees and the fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. The stranger that is within thee. You know, like the beauty supplies. You know, like the gas stations. You know, like all the food restaurants, like Chinese food, you know. Everybody able to set up shop. You know, like the Jamaicans can come sell their clothes to us. Nations shall be set up in our communities and profit off of us. You know, like the Chaldeans got the insurance. You know how and I'm from Detroit. You know how we got to go get them 7-day tags and it costs like $3 something. and your insurance expire in 7 days, and then you get pulled over by an Edomite cop, and he writes you a $500 ticket. Oppression. Oppression. Everybody's going to be able to come and set up shop in our communities. And we just going to spend our dollars with everybody. But guess what we're going to do to ourselves? Sell drugs, pump poison in our hoods, shoot each other, rob each other. Let me finish reading, man. This is crazy, bringing this book to life. Check this out. And thou shalt come down very low. Let me read 43 again. This is very important. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. The good houses, they owned by not us. You know, we just own the shacks and stuff within our hoods. As a matter of fact, we renting in our hoods, you know? We renting. And guess who own the houses? He shall lend to thee. What's on every one of our corners? Cash advance. Payday advance. Who own those? Not us. And thou shalt not lend to them. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail in our own hoods. This is sad reading this stuff, knowing that it's a quick fix, but we're refusing it. This is sad reading this stuff, man. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Most High, thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. I hope somebody getting this. And they shall be upon thee for a sign, for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Look what you're doing to your kids. Look what you're doing to your children, to your seed. Generational curse. Not keeping them commandments. And they shall be upon thee for a sign. Our poverty is a sign to us that we refusing to read. They shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder that we come from greatness, like our great King Solomon, who was the wisest and wealthiest king on this earth, leading Israel. Now look at us. We don't even know where we come from. 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies. If you don't serve your Most High power, he'll hand you over to serve your enemies. Listen to this. Which the Most High power shall send against thee. He gonna send them against you. In hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. We're going to be slaves and carried from our land. They're going to put shackles on our necks and our wrists and our ankles and carry us from our land. We read in slavery. The Most High shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. What's our national bird here in America? The bald eagle. Is it coming together? Is it plain as day to you like it is to me? This sends chills through my body. How much I can identify with these curses. We talking about our slavery that we in right now. Where we at? Talking about the eagle. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. We on a whole nother nation. This ain't our nation. This ain't our land. This ain't where we come from. We don't speak English. We speak Hebrew. We Hebrews. We're an American. What is an American? Who on America is from America? Who is from America? Whose nationality is American? What is African American? What does African American mean? It's crazy. Listen to this nation that got us. Listen to this nation. A nation of fierce countenance. You know how we're the greatest nation? Our army is the most powerful nation, the most fierce nation, feared by the world and all that, you know. Which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. They enslaved our old and brought us up in them same cotton fields. This lesson gonna be a little lengthy, but we talking about our history right now. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou beest destroyed, which also shall not leave either corn. Listen, they're gonna take us from an abundant land. He shall eat the fruit of thy cattle. That means when you do all the work, right? Listen to what he gonna leave you. And the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thine kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until we have destroyed thee. So we're going to be doing all the work, but we ain't going to be reaping no benefits. They're going to be reaping all the benefits from our work. And he shall besiege thee and all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down. Wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land. Which the Lord thy God hath given thee. You're going to be snatched up out of Jerusalem. Then when we flee Jerusalem, we're going to flee into Africa, right? We're going to flee over into our wilderness. Africa is our wilderness. Look at the map. Look at Israel, right? Countless times throughout this Bible, we crossed over from Israel to Egypt. You know, Egypt, which is part of Africa. You know, when we fled over into and migrated throughout Africa, they came and snatched us again and brought us over here to America. But we come from Israel. We ain't just no Africans. And they taught us we African American. We ain't just African. You understand? 53. Man, this is heavy. 53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body. Hold on. Let me pause right there because I want to go into this slavery. Let's go to 2 Kings. Now I'll pick back up at 53. Let's go into 2 Kings. Let me get over to 2 Kings. 24th chapter. And I'm going to read 8 through 20. We're about to read about this slavery. 24th chapter. I'm going to read 8 through 20. When we first got snatched up out of our land. Check it out. We're in 2 Kings, 24th chapter. I'm going to start at 8 and I'm going to read through 20. Joachim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High God. He did that what was evil. He was serving them other gods, and he wasn't keeping our commandments. And he was the king, right? Check it out. And he did that what was evil in the sight of the Most High, according to all his father had done. So his daddy taught him. His daddy did it, and he picked up where his daddy left off. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants and his princes and his officers. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. Him and his whole family came and snatched him. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Most High God. Came and stripped Jerusalem. We're reading about when Babylon came and took us. Babylonian captivity came and stripped our land and enslaved us. And he carried out all the treasures of the house of the Most High and the treasures of the king's house, and cut it in pieces, all the vessels of gold which Solomon, king of Israel, all that hard work, had made in the temple of the Most High, as the Most High had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained, save the poorest sort of people of the land. They saved the poor so they could remain slaves. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon. Carried him away to Babylon into a strange land. And the king's mother. America is the new Babylon, man. America is Babylon. It happened all over again. And he carried away Jehoiakim into Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives. That's crazy. And his officers, and the mighty of the land. Those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths, 1,000, all that were strong and apt for war. Even them the king of Babylon brought captive. Even our soldiers he made captive. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, his father's brother, king in his stead. He set his own king up over there. Took us and just set his own king up, his father's brother. and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of the Most High it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. We just read about the first captivity, our first captivity, when we got snatched up out of Babylon, when we got snatched up out of Jerusalem and carried over into Babylon. That's what we just read about. Now, this happened between 7 and 600 BC. Okay? Now, if we read in 2nd Esdras 13 and 39 through 45, we'll read about 10 tribes as we were being taken captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. 10 tribes, the chiefs and the important men, we took counsel among ourselves. As a matter of fact, I'm about to go to it for you, and I'm going to read it to you. So I had to pull up my Apocrypha, which holds the book of 2nd Esdras. And I'm about to read 13, 39 through 45. Let me get down to 39. And we're about to read how we got to America. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Oshea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Now watch this. But they took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen. They took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. That's here. That's America. That's when the natives first got here. Somewhere between 7 something and 600 BC. Okay? That they might there keep their statutes. I'm at 42, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by narrow places of river. For the Most High then showed signs for them. So the Most High was with them as they escaped from Babylon and came over here. And he held the water still till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half. It took them a year and a half to get here, right? And the same region is called Arsareth. Arsareth is America. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put that book up. I'm going to read on my phone. I just have to read that 2nd Esdras, so we can understand what Arsareth is, right? Now, Arsareth is America. Type it in your Google. Arsareth. Arsareth. That's America. Now, I have an ebook, right? This ebook is called Christopher Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese Discoveries. It's by Meyer Keyserling, and it was written in 1894. I got pages 14 through 15, which they wrote about Christopher Columbus coming over here and discovering Arsareth. Christopher Columbus used the prophecies of our Bible to discover America. Discover. When he got here, the natives were already here. What name did they give Christopher Columbus of this country? Arsareth. Let me read that. Let me read that insert out of this ebook that I got. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave a link in this video to it too. Once again, this might be one of my longest videos, but it's history. This is our history. And I ain't even half done yet. This book interested Columbus so much that he excerpted 3 whole chapters. I'm reading out of this ebook that I'm talking about. He was also very fond of reading the Bible. Christopher Columbus was very fond of reading the Bible. And the 4th book of Ezra, 2nd Esdras, what I just read to you, which was probably written by a Jew, a Hebrew, one of us. And it was. Ezra was one of us, who lived outside of Palestine. According to his own assertion, the incentive that implied him to plan his discoveries was not a love of science, but his interpretation of the prophecies of Isaiah. That's what gave Christopher Columbus the notion to come over here and take this land. Excuse me. That's what gave Christopher Columbus his insight, our Bible. I'm going to leave this book. Absolutely, America is an extension of Rome. 100%. Now, we just read that Christopher Columbus used our Bible, right? Christopher Columbus used our book, the prophecies in Isaiah. Let's go into these prophecies in Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah 22. Let's check out what prophecies we're talking about here. Isaiah 22. Isaiah 22, and I'm going to read 17 through 19. Behold, the Lord will carry thee away with mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house. And I will drive thee from thy station and from thy state, and shall he put thee down. All right. Now let's go over to Isaiah 46. We get that? Let's go over to Isaiah 46, 1 through 7. Let me read that. These are the prophecies that Christopher Columbus used to give him the notion to come on over here, where he read about Arsareth. I can't lie, Christopher Columbus, he was a smart man. Let me get that out of our way. Okay. 46. I'm going to read 1 through 7. Isaiah 46, 1 through 7. Baal boweth down, Nebo stooped. Their idols were upon the beasts. and upon the cattle. Your carriages were heavy loaded. They are a burden to the weary beast. They stoop, they bow down together. They could not deliver the burden, but themselves are gone into captivity. Hearken unto me, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel, which are born by me from the belly, which are carried from the womb, and even to your old age I am he, and even to hoar hairs I will carry you. I have made and I will bear, even I will carry and will deliver you. To whom will ye liken me, and make me equal, and compare me, that we may be alike? They lavish gold out of a bag, and weigh silver in the balance, and hire a goldsmith, and he maketh it a god. They fall down, yea, they worship. They bear upon him the shoulder, they carry him, and set him in his place. And he standeth, from his place shall he not remove. Yea, one shall cry unto him, yet can he not answer, nor save him out of his trouble. We get that? That's us bowing to idols. That's us bowing to idols and falling to captivity because of the idols we bow to. Baal boweth down, Nebo stoopeth. You get that? Now let's go to Isaiah 39 and 6 through 7. Let's go through these prophecies that Christopher Columbus used to locate us and take our land. 39, and I'm going to read 6 and 7. Behold, the days come, that all that is in thine house, and that which is thy father's hath laid up to store unto this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. You see how Christopher Columbus used these prophecies according to this ebook that I got? I'm going to leave the link to this ebook in the description of this video. Once again, the name of this book is Christopher Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese Discoveries. Now, let me tie all this in together, okay? We were taken into Babylon. We took counsel among ourselves. Getting ships took us about 1.5 years to come into Arsenal. 10 tribes of Israel scattered ourselves among the isles of the West. All of the islands, Haiti, Dominican Republic, all the isles that we know as the Caribbeans right now, as well as the Americas, where we are right now. North America, Canada, that's all of us. Mexico, Hawaii, that's all us. That's all the 10 tribes. Judah right here in America. Gad, the North Americans. Naphtali in Hawaii. Levi and Benjamin, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. That's us. The 10 tribes, that's us. That's what we just read in Esdras. We were here when Christopher Columbus came over here in the 1600s. Get that? Like 1,000 years later, after we took counsel among ourselves to come free ourselves and come to this land, Christopher Columbus came to finish the job off of us walking away from our commandments and fulfilling the prophecies of slavery. That's how all that ties in. Now, let me go to one more. And this one is the nail on the head. Isaiah 24. And I'm going to read 12 through 15. (24) 12 through 15. And the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. When thus it shall be in the midst of the land among the people, there shall be as the shaking of an olive tree, and as the gleaning grapes when the vintage is done. They shall lift up their voice. They shall sing for the majesty of the Lord. They shall cry aloud from the sea. Wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires, even the name of the Most High God of Israel in the isles of the sea. The name of the Most High God, Israel, is throughout the isles of the sea, the islands. You get that? That's prophecy. This is what Christopher Columbus used to understand that there was land over here. But we was here though. We came over here. BC, between 7 and 600. We came over here. 1,000 years later, Christendom came. Now, we got to read Deuteronomy 29, and I'm going to read 24 through 29. And what we're about to read is how all nations understand this, except for us. 29, and I'm going to read 24 through 29. Listen to this. 24. Even all nations shall say, wherefore hath the Lord done thus unto this land? What meaneth the heat of his great anger? Then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord. Everybody know why except for us. Because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord, God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods of whom they knew not, and whom he had not given unto them. And the anger of the kindled against this land, to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book. And the Most High rooted them up out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. The secret things belong unto the Most High God, our power, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may all do the words of this law. Everybody know except for us. While we are in captivity. This book. You hear that? This book? Now that we got a clear understanding of how we ended up in America originally between 750 BC and about 600 BC. That's about the time frame. We took counsel among ourselves, left Babylon. We read about when we got taken captive and took over into Babylon. And we took counsel among ourselves to flee Babylon. Come on over here to Arcereth, which Christopher Columbus discovered. in the 1600s. You know? It's all prophecy. When we walk away from our commandments, we go into captivity. That's what we're reading. Now, let's get back to Matthew. I'm sorry, not Matthew, Deuteronomy 28. Let's get back to Matthew, Deuteronomy 28. I'm sorry, let's get back to Deuteronomy 28. And I'm going to read 52 again, because that's where we left off. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest thou throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. We get that? Now we see, we just read in Deuteronomy 29, how we walked away from the laws of this book. You see? And we ended up in captivity. Now, let's read and let's tie our Christ into this whole thing. Now it's time to tie our Christ into this whole thing. Let's go to Matthew. Matthew, the first chapter. Let's get to Matthew, the first chapter. We're about to see how our Christ plays a role in our slavery as our Savior, as our Redeemer. And I'm going to read 1 through 11, right? Matthew 1 and 1. The book of the generation of Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. That's what this is. This is the book of the generation of Christ, right? Now let me read. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac begot Jacob. I'm going to read down to 11. Jacob begot Judas and his brethren. And Judah begot Pharez and Zerah of Tamar. And Pharez begot Israel. And Israel begot Aram. And Aram begot Amminadab. And Amminadab begot Naasson. And Naasson begot Salmon. And Salmon begot Boaz. And Boaz of Rahab. And Boaz begot Obed of Ruth. And Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David the king. And David the king begot Solomon. You see how his kingship in our Christ's bloodline? This is when we were great. That's why I was mentioning that. Takes you to the heights of Israel concerning Christ. You see how this is the bloodline of Christ? And earlier on I was mentioning Solomon, how we were great. That's Christ's bloodline. Christ comes to redeem his bloodline. Now, Solomon, of her that had been the wife of Urias, and Solomon begat Rehoboam, and Rehoboam begat Abiah, and Abiah begat Asa, and Asa begat Josaphat, and Josaphat begat Joram, and Joram begat Ozias, and Ozias begat Joatham. You see how we going down the lineage of Christ? And Joatham begat Achaz, and Achaz begat Ezekias, and Ezekias begat Manasseh, and Manasseh begat Ammon, and Ammon begat Josias, and Josias begat Jeconias and his brethren. About that time they were carried away to Babylon. This is Christ's people who got carried away into Babylon. We are a product of Christ's people who got carried away into Babylon. We Christ's people, and we still in captivity. That's why it mentions Babylon, getting carried away into Babylon in his bloodline. You get that? So this slavery is part of Christ's story. We are who he's coming to redeem. Us who are in captivity. Now, after Babylon. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Salathiel, and Salathiel begot Zerubbabel. You see how we didn't miss a beat in making babies? One of our gifts as the Hebrews, our Lord told us. We read that earlier in Deuteronomy. The fruit of our loins are blessed. Not only that, the more we go into captivity, it is written that the more we go into captivity, the more we're going to have babies. The more we're going to have offspring. Let's read about that. Let's go over into Genesis right quick. Genesis chapter 47. Making it real thorough for you. This is our history. We ain't got nothing but time. And it's the Sabbath, by the way. Genesis 47. If I ain't getting sleepy and tired reading it, you shouldn't get sleepy and tired listening to your history about how your Christ is coming to redeem you. Let's read about how fruitful we are in our loins. Genesis 47, and I'm going to read 27. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. You see that? While we are in Egypt, we multiplied exceedingly. Let's go into Exodus 1 and 7. Exodus 1 and 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. The more you oppress us, the more babies we have. We have babies. We pop them out. That's us. We have a bunch of kids. It is what it is. That's what we do. Now you see that? Now, we can go into finishing reading Matthew all the way down 1, and I'll pick up at 12. After they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Salathiel, and Salathiel begot Zerubbabel. We ain't miss a beat. And Zerubbabel begot Abiud, and Abiud begot Eliakim, and Eliakim begot Azor, and Azor begot Sadoc, and Sadoc begot Akim, and Akim begot Eliud, and Eliud begot Eleazar, and Eleazar begot Mathan, and Mathan begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born our Christ. Now, check out 17. So all the generations of Abraham to David were 14 generations, right? From David unto the carrying away of Babylon are 14 generations, right? And from the carrying away of Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been reading the story of Christ and his people who went into captivity from walking away from his commandments. And he is coming to redeem us from our captivity. And we are awakening. I'm the evidence. And those like me who are deciding to come back to the laws and the commandments of our Most High God, that is who our Christ is coming to redeem. Those who are coming back to his law and his commandments. If you're not doing his law and his commandments, he's going to tell you he never knew you. Now, let me get back to Deuteronomy 52. I'm sorry, 28, and I'm going to pick up at 53. And I'm going to read on through. Deuteronomy 53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body. Cannibalism. The flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord, we're going to be so poor that we're going to be eating our own kind. We're going to be eating our own kin. Cannibalism. The flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Most High God, thy power, hath given thee, in the siege and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. Let's drop anchor there. Let's go to Micah. Micah 3. Let's go to Micah 3, and I'm going to read 1 through 4 right quick. Let's get over to Micah. Micah, and I'm going to read one of the smaller books of the prophets. There we go. Micah, and I'm going to read chapter 3, and I'm going to read 1 through 4. This is going to touch on cannibalism. And I said, hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. This whole book about Israel. The first part is our life. How we rose and fell, went off into captivity. These prophets kept warning us, trying to bring us back to the commandments. And we would come back to the commandments. We would fall again. Let me read about this cannibalism though. 2. Who hate the good and love the evil, who pluck off their skin from off them, and their flesh from off their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people, and flay their skin from off them. And they break their bones and chop them in pieces. As for the pot, and as the flesh within the caldron, then shall they cry unto the Lord, but he will not hear them. He will even hide his face from them at the time, as they have behaved themselves ill in their doings. You see that? Chop our bones up, eat our flesh. Cannibalism going on. That's what Michael was talking to us about. Get that? Khan. The 10 tribes were in the Assyrian captivity. Judah, Levi, Benjamin was in the Babylonian captivity. Aman. Coming from Micah, let's get back to the curses. 28. And I left off where we was talking about cannibalism, where we're going to be eating each other. We just had to identify that in Micah, just to prove it true. Now, where we at? 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. So the brother that had a good heart, so much going to be going on. You're going to go through so much oppression that you're going to turn evil. You're going to become violent towards your brother. It's going to be kill or be killed. It's going to be a fine God. If my kids got to eat, I'll take from you. You know? And toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. It'll get so tight that you will leave your own crib starving. How many single parent households do we have in our ghettos, in our communities? It'll get so tight that you'll leave your kids. You will turn toward the wife of your bosom and leave your children. 55. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat. It's going to get so tight that you even going to get selfish with eating your children. You ain't even going to feed the rest of your family. You're going to eat your children and you're going to keep it to yourself. That's how hungry you're going to get. That's what we was just reading about in Micah. Israel done been through some stuff. We done been through the unbelievable, and we still here. All praises to the Most High God. At any given time, we can turn back to our commandments and break these curses. Because he hath nothing left in him in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. 56. The tender and delicate woman, the good-hearted woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. She gonna lose all that. Her eye shall be evil toward her husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet. She gonna hate her children, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. It'll get so tight for you, you would just be having babies just so you can eat. Your babies, though. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law, which are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, Ahia, the Most High thy power. '59. Then the Most High will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed. Your seed gonna go through it. We are a product of our forefathers walking away from the commandments. Even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. 60. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. 61. Man, this is heavy to read. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in this book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. Stuff we ain't even reading. It's bad enough what we read. Stuff we ain't reading gonna happen to us. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven, for the multitude, for multitude. We were as the stars of heaven. Remember he made that promise to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Israel? We're going to be few in number. Whereas ye were as the stars of heaven, for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Most High thy power. 63. And it shall come to pass that as the Most High rejoiced over you to do good, to do you good, and to multiply you, he rejoiced over us to do us good and to multiply us, right? So the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you. So the Most High will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked off from the land whither thou goest to possess it. 64. And the Most High shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth unto the other. We are the lost sheep of Israel. We're scattered everywhere. We have no homeland. We know not our identity. We don't know who we are. We don't even know our language. We speak English. We ain't English. We ain't Spanish. We ain't French. We ain't none of that. We Hebrew. We're Israel. Israel speaks Hebrew. Do we know Hebrew? Do we know our language? Do we know the language the Lord gave us? We don't know nothing about our identity. We don't know where we truly come from. Man, where we at? '64. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. What's the first thing we turn to when we leave the Most High God? Sunday church, Christianity, wood, that cross, which is not this book. And we turn to standing on them corners with a bow tie on in the middle of the hot sun, selling fruit. The Nation of Islam. One or the other. Wood and stone. That's what wood and stone represents. We turn to one of them two. 65. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. We're going to work, 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 work. Don't you get tired of working, making minimum wage, and you pay your bills and you don't got 2 pennies to rub together? But the Most High shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. Be tired out of your mind working. Break your spirit. Just work. 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee. You're going to have doubts. You're going to be an insecure person walking around. Barely able to afford the things you like or want in life. Thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. You ain't gonna have you ain't gonna be sure of nothing. 67. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even. And at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. You ain't gonna know your day from your night. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear. And for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. The stuff you're gonna see is gonna make you sick. It's gonna drive you crazy to the point where you ain't gonna know day from night. Finally, 68. Listen to this. This is the key to the whole thing. 68. And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. There's our slavery. Shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Have we went back into Egypt since we left Egypt? Moreover, have we went there in ships? Egypt is the house of bondage. Egypt is the house of slavery. Egypt is the house. Egypt, let's read what Egypt is. Let's go to Deuteronomy 5 and 6 so we can understand what Egypt is. Deuteronomy 5 and 6. This is what Egypt is. It's not the land Egypt, you know. I am the Lord thy God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. That's what Egypt is, the house of bondage. We're in bondage right now. We're in Egypt. Let's go to Jeremiah 43 and 13. Let's read further into what Egypt is. 43 and 13, Jeremiah. He shall break also the images of Beshemesh that is in the land of Egypt, and the house of the gods of the Egyptians. The house of the gods. That's what Egypt is. The house of the gods. The house of bondage and the house of the gods, right? Let's go to Jeremiah 34 and 14. Wood and stone, the mother gods. At the end of the 7 years, let ye go every man, his brother in Hebrew. 13. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, I made a covenant with you and your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondmen, out of the house of bondage, the house of the gods, the house of bondmen. We getting a picture here? Egypt is slavery. Egypt is captivity. Egypt is bondage. That's what we back in. He said he gonna bring us back into Egypt again in ships. We came back into bondage, into captivity in ships. Let's go to Micah. Keep learning what Egypt is. We're going to break all the way down what Egypt is, okay? So we can know. It ain't just about the place. We're talking about a state of mind and a situation that we in. 6 and 4. For I brought thee up out of the land of Egypt and redeemed thee out of the house of servants, the house of bondage, the house of the gods, the house of bondsmen, the house of servants. Let's go to Joshua 24 and 17. We're breaking down Egypt. Joshua. (24 and 17). You see how Egypt means bondage, captivity, all that? 17, 24 and 17. For the Lord our God, he it is that brought us up out of and our fathers out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. The house of bondage, okay? Exodus 20 and 2. These are commandments here. Exodus 20 and 2. I'll spit that to you. I'm the Lord thy God, who brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. (20 and 2). I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. All right. Now we get it. Psalms 114 and 1. Finally. And we're going to get the last thing that we can liken Egypt to. Psalms 114 and 1. And tell me we ain't going through all that stuff. 114 and 1. When Israel went out of Egypt, the house of Jacob, from a people of strange language. Strange language. We're here speaking a strange language. We're here in bondage. We're here in captivity. We're bondsmen. You get that? We're servants. We can't rub two pennies together. We can't work our way out of debt. That's us. Now let's read 68 again. And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. You ain't gonna see your land no more. Never again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. We're going to be sold. Wall Street started with us being sold as slaves. For bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. We won't be able to be bought up out of this slavery. We just read the curses of Deuteronomy 28. We just read from 1 through 68. 1 through 14 are blessings, should we keep his commandments. 15 through 68 are curses, which is slavery. We're Israel. We're Christ's people. We went into Matthew and we tied in this slavery, this captivity, with the lineage and bloodline of Christ. Christ is coming to redeem us out of captivity, who come back to his commandments. Let's read about Christ prophesying about us. First, let's go to Ezra. I'm sorry. Now, that we done with, oh man, this is overwhelming. This is heavy. Just reading my history. This is overwhelming, just reading my history. Now we know that Babylon happened about 600 to 700 years before Matthew, before the New Testament. About 600 to 700 BC, before the New Testament, okay? Before the birth of Christ. That's when our 10 tribes went over into Arsareth, America, here, where we at now, the islands, okay? Now, we about to go into Matthew 24, and we're going to read about the prophecy that Christ himself, after he was born, warned us about. Matthew 24. Once we run through 24, we'll understand the role of Christ coming to save us out of this captivity that we're in. When he comes back to redeem his people, Israel, we'll understand clearly we're in captivity. Israel, our slavery, Christ, our Savior. Just want to break a few more things down. Now, Christ died between 30 and 35 AD. About 30 to 40 years after Christ died, 70 AD. Okay? 70 AD, Jerusalem was sieged. 70 AD, the Romans came and took over Jerusalem for good. They still over there right now. So from 70 AD, we fled into the wilderness as Christ prophesied. That's what we're about to read about. Now, around 600 to 700 BC, we got taken captive for walking away from our commandments. Went into Babylon. 10 tribes took counsel among themselves to leave Babylon to a land where mankind never dwelt. That's here, Arsareth and the islands. That's us. Okay? Now, that was about 600 to 700 years before Christ was born. All right? About 40 years after he died, 70 AD, Jerusalem, the remnant, now we understand what Christ was born into. He was born into us already going through our land being trampled over, turmoil, right? We got to read about Because some may have a question. How did we get back in Jerusalem then? If we left about 600 to 700 years BC? How did we get back in Jerusalem for Christ to be born over in Israel again? That happened. Let's go to Ezra. Let's go to Ezra. And we'll read about how we found our way back to Israel. Right? Ezra, the 6th chapter. All right. Check this out. Ezra, the 6th chapter. Let's read about us making our way back to Jerusalem, to Israel. Then Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. Remember, we got taken by Babylon? Darius the king, he's a Persian. This is when the world shifted from Babylonian power to Persian. We're under the Persian Empire now. That's what we're reading about now. You had the Babylonian Empire. First you had the ancient Egyptian Empire. Then the Babylonians with Nebuchadnezzar and them. Then you had the Persian Empire. That's what Darius and Cyrus and them. Then you had the Greek Empire. That's what Alexander the Great and them. Then you had the Roman Empire. That's where Christ was born. The Roman Empire, which still goes on today. America is an offspring of the Roman Empire. We're still under Roman captivity right now. This is still Roman. This is the Roman kingdom. America is part of it. So, with that being understood, we are in the Persian Empire now. The Babylonian Empire, that's over and done with. The Persians now took over the world. That's what we're reading about now. The Persians came to an understanding of the Most High God. They had respect for the Most High God. It's not their God, but they had respect for the Most High God. They feared the Most High God. What did they do? They sent us back to our homeland to rebuild the temple of God that was destroyed, that Solomon originally built. The Persians sent us back. That's what we're about to read in the book of Ezra, 6th chapter. Then Darius, starting at 1, the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls, whereas the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Agmetha in the palace that is in the province of the Medes, and a roll, and therein was a record thus written. Check out what was written in the records. In the first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of the Most High at Jerusalem. Let the house be building, the place where they offered sacrifices, and let the foundations thereof be strongly laid. He made a decree to rebuild the temple. The height thereof 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 80 cubits. With 3 rows of great stones, and a row of new timber, and let the expenses be given out of the king's house. How's it going this evening, this Sabbath evening? We digging in deep in our history. At this point, we're in the Persian Empire. You're welcome. Definitely, my brother. No matter what we don't do that title stuff. We reading about this book. And it's all love. My brother, I appreciate you for listening. You are very welcome. Thank you for listening. So, Where we at? We're in the Persian Empire. King Darius came across a scroll where King Cyrus wrote for Israel to rebuild the temple. Okay, the temple of Jerusalem. All right. Out of the king's expenses. In the first year, Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of the God at Jerusalem. Let the house be built, the place where they offer sacrifices, and let the foundations thereof be strongly laid. The height thereof 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 60 cubits. 4. With 3 rows of great stones and a row of new timber, and let the expenses be given out of the king's house. And also let the golden and silver vessels of the house of God, remember we read about Nebuchadnezzar taking them, which Nebuchadnezzar took forth out of the temple, which is at Jerusalem, and brought unto Babylon, be restored and brought again unto the temple, which is at Jerusalem. This is how we made our way back to Jerusalem. The Persian Empire took over the Babylonian Empire, and they had reverence for the Most High God. They sent us back so that we could start back sacrificing to our God, the Most High God. And brought again unto the temple which is at Jerusalem, every one to his place, and placed them in the house of the Most High. Now therefore, Tatnai, governor beyond the river, Shetharboznai, and your companions, the Epharsishites, which are beyond the river, be ye far from thence. Let the work of this house of the Most High alone. Let the governor of the Jews and the elders of the Jews build this house of the Most High God in his place. We get that? Moreover, I make a decree, what ye shall do to the elders of the Jews for the building of the house of the Most High, that the king's goods, even of the tribute beyond the river, forthwith expenses be given unto these men. He calling for expenses from throughout the world to be given to these men to rebuild the temple of Israel, that they be not hindered. 9. And that they have that which they have need of, both young bullocks and rams and lambs, for the burnt offerings of the God of heaven. They understood him as the Most High God of heaven. And they restored our sacrifices and our means to sacrifices. They restored us from the Babylonian captivity and sent us back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. And he also provided the things we needed. Wheat, salt, wine, and oil, according to the appointment of the priests, which are at Jerusalem. Let it be given them day by day without fail, out of the king's expenses, though. I'm on, my brother. I am reading the Bible. Yes, sir. And that which they need of, both young, I just read that, without fail, we at 10. That they may offer sacrifices of sweet saviors unto the Most High of heaven, and pray for the life of the king and of his sons. You see that? The Persians sent them back to sacrifice so that they can pray for the life of the king and his sons. So he understood the power of the Most High to the point where he restored Jerusalem, took them out of Babylonian captivity and sent them back to their homeland so that they can pray and make sacrifices and pray for him as well as his bloodline, his sons. I have also made a decree that whosoever shall alter this word let timber be pulled down from his house, and being set up, let him be hanged thereon, and let his house be made a dunghill for this. Unbelievable. Now, I'm going to read down through 16. And the Most High that hath caused his name to dwell there, destroy all the kings and people that shall put their hand to alter and to destroy this house of the Most High, which is at Jerusalem. I, Darius, have made this decree. Let it be done with speed. Then Tatnai, the governor on this side the river, Shethar-boznai, and their companions, according to which Darius the king had sent, so they did speedily. They did exactly what he said. 14. And the elders of the Jews built, and they prospered through the prophesying of Edo, and they built and finished it according to the commandment of the Most High of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. The Persians sent us back. And this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month Adar, which was in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. And the children of Israel, the priests and the Levites, and the rest of the children of the captivity, kept the dedication of this house of the Most High with joy. Get that? That's how we made our way back to Israel. That's how we made our way back to the city. That's how we made our way back to rebuild the temple, only to be destroyed again, because after the Persians, the Greeks came. When the Greeks came, they put us right back into captivity. However, we went into captivity not because of nobody else. We went into captivity because we walked away from our commandments. Fell victim to Greek rulership. After the Greeks, the Romans. During that shift of power from the Greeks to the Romans, that's the turmoil and the mist that our Christ was born in. That brings us to Matthew. That's how us as a people made our way from Babylon back to Jerusalem. That's how we made our way back. That takes us back over to Matthew. This is where our Christ was born. This is the time span where Christ was born. Between the Greeks who overtook the Persians and the Romans overtaking the Greeks. That battle, shortly after the Romans took rule, before they officially made their establishment, they put the play down and really took over in 70 AD, after Christ perished about 35 to 40 AD. He was born 1 BC. He lived 33 years. That puts us around the 35 AD time mark. We know 70 AD, you type that in Google, it's going to take you right to the siege of Jerusalem by the Romans. That's when they came into full power. They already had trampled through our city again because we walked away from our commandments. When Christ was born, he was born into a poor, desolate people in our own city, our own state, our own country, being ran by the Romans. He came to restore order, and they killed him. Us, his own people. Crucify him. Crucify him. Crucify him. That was us out there yelling, crucify him. We judged Christ. We put our Christ on that crucifix. We did that. We ain't know no better. And you know why the Jews did that? You know why us, the Hebrews, the colored, you know why we did that? We did that when Christ came to restore law, to bring us back to this law, to love our Christ. They expected a king like King David. They expected a king like Solomon. We were impoverished. We were broken down. They expected Christ to come back and put Jerusalem back how Solomon had. That's what they were expecting, another king. So he did his miracles. But when he spoke his word, those Pharisees, which were us, which were going by the law, they didn't like Christ. They crucified him for calling himself one with God. They crucified their Savior. They didn't know. They put that judgment down. And a Roman son came up on that cross and he gave up the ghost. But before he did that, let's go into Matthew 24 and we're going to read through his prophecy about what was soon to come, which is 70 AD, which is when we would leave Jerusalem and flee into the wilderness to avoid Roman persecution. The Romans came and slaughtered us. The Romans came and slaughtered us. And when they came to slaughter us, about 1 million of us, over 1 million of us, fled into the wilderness. The rest of us got slaughtered. And then another big multitude of us turned into slaves to the Romans as they overtook our land. And when we look over into Israel right now and we don't see nobody that look like us, you're looking at a product of 70 AD. The Romans taking over, Edom taking over our land. We're scattered throughout. Now, after we fled into the mountains, our wilderness, the mountains of Africa, after we fled into the mountains, Egypt, Ethiopia, Libya, we made our way. We migrate. We made our way into West Africa. This is a product of us leaving our commandments. We left our book. Now we're in a land that we know nothing about. The Most High finished off his prophecy. As we made our way over into the West Africas, where we got taken from, you have what is called the IGBO tribe, Igbo tribe. Those were Hebrews, the Igbo tribe. So that ties in. We're talking about the 1600s now. From 70 AD, when we fled into Africa. Remember how I said we multiply exceedingly when we are oppressed? Yeah. We multiplied exceedingly throughout Africa. So we're everywhere. Our book tells us that we're in every country, every continent, throughout the world. We're there. Africa is our wilderness, nonetheless. So as we made our way to the West Africas, roughly 1,000 years later, from 7,000, you can't even say roughly 1,000 years later, to about the 1600s, when Christopher Columbus now started coming to get us from the west coast of Africa and started that slave trade and brought us from the west coast of Africa over into the Americas to meet up with the rest of our brothers and sisters who are already there. But that Christopher Columbus discovered, yeah, we were in them slave boats. with the Hamites. Don't get us wrong. With the Hamites, the Igbo tribe. We were in there as well. The Igbo tribe got taken from ships again into Egypt. That's what we read in the last verse, Deuteronomy 28 and 68. That's that prophecy. That's how we end up here right now. That's how we end up here in captivity right now. That's how it all happened. Let's go into Matthew 24 and let's let our Christ prophesy to us about the desolation, about 70 AD, about us fleeing into the wilderness. Let's let our Christ talk to us about that. 24. I'm going to start reading at the top. And Christ went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Christ said unto them, see ye not all these things? He's showing them the temple. Verily I say unto you, there shall not be one stone left upon another that shall not be thrown down. Jerusalem is going to be destroyed, y'all. Shortly after I leave, Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. They're going to run through this thing. 3. And he sat upon the Mount of Olives. The disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Tell us about these days which we are going into right now. Which we are in right now, the last days. Here are Christ prophesied. And Christ answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All that is familiar to us, right? All that has come to pass, right? All these are the beginning of sorrows, okay? 9. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Yeshaya. That's our Christ's name. Yeshua. That's what's written. Yeshua, for he shall save us. Yeshua means to save, Savior, redeem. That's our Christ's name. That's in another lesson that I already did. You can go to my other lesson. Just call it the Most High God's true name and Christ's true name. It'll break it down crystal clear for you. What our Christ's name is, Yeshaya, and our Most High God's name is Ahaya. 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. 10. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. 11. And many false prophets shall rise, and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. We're going to start to, the love going to be gone. The love that Christ showed us, we're going to lose that. There's going to be one man for another. One man for him, every man for himself. 13. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Remember that. He that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. You got to endure unto the end to be saved. 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Now, what is the abomination of desolation? That is when Jerusalem went desolate. Daniel prophesied about it. Let's go to Daniel 12. He just named Daniel. Let's read that one more time. 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains of Africa. Let them that be in Jerusalem and which be in Judea flee into the mountains. You better flee when they come in 70 AD. That's what he's trying to tell you about. Let's go into Daniel, so Daniel can prophesy to us about it before Christ was even born. Daniel talked to us about it. Let's get to Daniel. Let's get over to Daniel. There's Daniel, okay? We're going to Daniel 12, and I'm going to read 11 through 13. He's about to prophesy about the desolation of Jerusalem, the abomination of desolation. When they crucified Christ, that was an abomination. 12, 11 through 13. The end of the book. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh the desolate set up, when Christ, when Christ was sacrificed and taken away, desolation was set up. 30-something years later, desolation, the siege of Jerusalem. So they killed Christ, got him out the way. Then they took the land. Get it? And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, Christ taken away, and the abomination maketh desolate, Jerusalem being desolate, set up, when they set that up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,335 days. But go thou away till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of days. That's prophecy about the abomination of desolation. Okay? Now, check this out. It just says something. Okay? Now I said when the abomination is set up. Okay? There shall be 1,290 days. Right? That's 3.5 years. Roughly. Blessed is he that waiteth, and come to the 1,335 days. That's roughly 3.5 years too. Nah. It's 30-something days. I'm sorry. 45 days in between those times. Okay? Then you got 1,260 days, which is prophesied about. We're going to get there in a minute. Let me just get, oh man. Revelation. Let's go to Revelation 12. Let's go to Revelation. And we're about to put these numbers together right quick. Revelation 12. I'm going to read 5 and 6. And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Right? She, Jerusalem, brought forth a man child. Right? So we're talking about the birth of Christ. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Right? And the woman fled into the wilderness. Right? That's prophecy. The woman, Jerusalem, fled into the wilderness. We fled into the wilderness when they came to get us, 70 AD, right? Remember that? Where she had a place prepared of the Most High, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Okay? That's 1,260 days, right? Now, this is prophecy about them fleeing. Okay? If this is prophecy about them fleeing into the wilderness, this is prophecy about 70 AD. Right? 1,260 days. That's your 70 AD, right? Nah. If 1,260 days is 70 AD, we can go back to Daniel 1,260 days. We just got that out of Revelation, which is a prophecy about 70 AD, the siege of Jerusalem, when we fled into the wilderness, 1,260 days. Okay? Let's go back to Daniel. Okay? From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, that's death of Christ, and the abomination set up, right? There shall be 1,290 days. That's the death of Christ. From 1,260 to 1,290, 30 years, 30 days. 30 days. Or Christ died roughly 30 AD, somewhere around there, right? Roughly 30 days, 30 years later, 1,260 days, 70 AD. Now, we got another number. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh 1,335 days. Okay? 1,335 days. What's that, 30-some years? That's birth. Birth of Christ. Death of Christ, which is when abomination of desolation was set up. 70 AD. Siege of Jerusalem. You see them numbers? It's like 30-some years, then 30-some years, then 30-some years. We look at them time spans. You can count the birth of Christ out of that. Then you can count the death of Christ out of that. And then you can count the siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD, which is in Revelation out of that. You get that? Now, let me keep it moving. Let's go to Revelation 11 and 3. Let's stay on these numbers right quick. Revelation 11 and 3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Israel and Christ. He shall give power to them. Sackcloth, that's when we mourn. We put sackcloth on to mourn. That means something died. Why are we mourning? Christ died. Jerusalem died. 1,260 days shall we mourn. Our Christ said he's coming back in 3 days. Right? Get that? Right. Now, we're about to identify this woman and this dragon in heaven that we just identified, right? Let's go back to Revelation 12. I'm going to read 1 through 3. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Those are 12 tribes of Israel. That's Jerusalem, the woman. Okay? And she being with child, travailing in birth and pain, and to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his head. That's Satan, the dragon in heaven, right? Right. Now let's go down to 13 and 14 in the same chapter. And we're going to spot them same two, Jerusalem and Satan, getting kicked out of heaven. Satan got kicked out of heaven. Here it is. 13 and 14. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto earth, he got kicked out of heaven. He persecuted the woman, Jerusalem, us. He persecuted us. He after us. This whole thing is about us. Which brought forth the man-child. He persecuted her who brought forth Christ, Jerusalem. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. Where are we now? A great eagle. That she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times, a time and times. So you got times and a time and times and a half, 3.5 days. 1,260, that's 3.5. We getting that? From the face of the serpent. We get that? Time, times, and a half, 3.5. our Christ coming back in 3.5 days. We in the third day. From the face of the serpent. Now that we got that, let's go find that times and a half again. Let's go to Daniel 12. Daniel prophesied about Christ all through this. And I heard a man clothed in linen, right? White linen, which was upon the waters of the river. How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half. That's our Christ prophesying to us. That's Daniel prophesying to us about our Christ. The same prophecy that's in Revelation about time, times and a half, which is 3.5 years. When he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, to scatter the power of the holy people. We're prophesied to be scattered throughout the entire earth. You know why? Because we're the light of the earth. We went by hand of leaving the commandments, got scattered throughout the earth, but they will be used to the Most High's glory. As we're scattered through the earth, we will be those who spread the word of the true word of the Most High God. Get that? We are the light of men. We're the light of the earth. We're scattered throughout the earth. Making sense? That's why we're scattered throughout the earth. Because when the Most High begins to call his people back, when Christ begins to call his people back, he's going to call us back from throughout the four corners of the earth, not from just one part. So let's finish reading. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Now we understand? Now, it said upon the waters. Let's read that again. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river. Hold on. Let's go to Genesis right quick about this water. Genesis 1 and 2, the very beginning of the book. I want to read this right quick. We're talking about a man in linen on the water. In the water. 1 and 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, right? And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The Spirit of our Christ moved upon the face of the waters. That's what we're prophesying about. In his water. Okay? And the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river. You get that? This is our Christ we're talking about here. And it's telling you when he coming to redeem us. Times and a half. Same thing our Christ said. Destroy my temple, and in 3 days I'll rebuild it. He's coming back in 3 days. Get that? Now we understanding these numbers just a little bit more. Now let's get back to our prophecy in Matthew, because I want us to understand that this prophecy in 24 and 16, that's about 70 AD. Let let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. And let him which is on the housetop not come down to take any. Don't come down. Don't come trying to take nothing with you. You just get lost. Or you're going to become part of that Roman slaughter when they come through there and siege Jerusalem. Flat out. 17. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Don't come back to get nothing. No change of clothes, no nothing. You better flee to the mountains. Or you're going to die. You're going to be a slave or you're going to get slaughtered. Period. And woe to them that are with child and to them that give suck in those days. It's going to be a bad situation if you got babies and you fleeing within those days. That ain't going to be no good thing, you know. But pray ye that your flight, when you got to get up out of there, it may not be in the winter because you're going to be in a wilderness, you know. Pray it don't be in the winter. Neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall there be great tribulation, such as was not seen since the beginning of the world to this time, nor never shall be. It never went down like it went down in 70 AD. All of us, the Jews, that Holocaust, that was a Holocaust. We got slaughtered in 70 AD. And the Edomites took our land. Now they over there acting like us. But we have a Savior and a Redeemer who will come to redeem us from the four corners of this earth. Now we have the whole story in the background about how slavery went down, how we got here, how we got spread throughout the four corners of the earth, how we fled into the wilderness. We got the full thing now, the full story of our slavery and our captivity. We got the full understanding of why we walked away from our commandments. You get that? We walked away from our commandments. It ain't because we can't blame the white man. We can't blame the government, the police. We can't blame nobody. We can blame us for walking away from our word that's in our book. When we come back to our commandments, our Christ will come to redeem us, who follow his book and his law from his captivity that we are in. That'll continue to go on until he come back. Because we got here from walking away from it. It's going to be enough of us, a remnant, that he'll come to redeem. Because the rest of us, we serving other gods. That's the story of our slavery. Let's finish reading. (22) And except those days be shortened, there shall be no flesh. There should no flesh be saved. You see that? It's going to be a slaughter in the last days. But listen to this. But for the elect's sake, for those who keep his commandments, who came back to his commandments, those days shall be shortened. Now, check it out. He's going to cut them days short, our days of Jacob's trouble, which we understand it as. Thanks to my elder Ricard and the rest of my GOCC family for making that clear to me what Jacob's trouble is. That's the time we coming up on tribulation. Now, 23. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets. Ain't nobody breaking this book down to you like this, going into this book like this, and they just preaching a good, feel good message, ain't giving you no insight on what this book talking about. That's a false Christ. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. You know how they like, come to Ghana, you know? Come on, y'all. You know? Yeah. Go not. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. The eagles be gathered together. Where we lie, dead. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. Blowing of the trumpet. They shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from all over the earth. He shall gather us from one end of heaven to the other. Amen. Now we understand our Christ is coming to save us and redeem us from the four corners of the earth, from when we were scattered, as a cause of walking away from our commandments and ending ourselves up in slavery. Talking about Israel. We were scattered by way of this curse, but for the purpose of spreading this true, unadulterated word throughout the four corners of the earth. It's up to us. That's why he spread us everywhere. Christ wants to get the glory out of us because he's here for all nations. Who shall call on the name shall be saved. But by us, because we got that true word. We ain't preaching it halfway. We ain't saying the law done away with. That remnant that's urging you, like, get back to your law and your commandments. We understand everything I just read. This video was necessary to be 3 hours. It's our history. I'm going to end this while reading Ezekiel 39. I'm going to read 21 through 29. I'm going to shut it off. But we'll understand clearly why we ended up in captivity. Israel our slavery, Christ our Savior. Let me read 21 through 29. 21. Ezekiel 39, starting at 21. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Most High their power, from that day and forward. 23. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity. That's why we went into captivity, for our sins, for walking away. Because they trespassed against me. Therefore I hid my face from them and gave them into the hands of their enemies. So fell they by the sword. The Most High did it. He walked away from us because we walked away from him. 24. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions have I done unto them, and hid my face from them. That's why. 25. Thus, therefore, saith the Lord God, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, Israel. That's why. And have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. He's going to have mercy on us. That's what he's saying to us. After that they have borne their shame and all their trespasses whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid, when I have brought them again from the people and gathered them out of their enemies. He's telling us he's going to gather us again. He's going to redeem us. He's going to save us. He prophesied it to us. And I'm sanctified in them in the sight of many nations. You see that? You see what I just said to you and see what we just read? We were scattered throughout all the nations so that all these nations may be sanctified through us. It all was purpose, and it all came full circle. That's why we're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, to break open this book in whatever language we talking in, with this blood running through our veins, to spit this truth, go against all odds in these strange nations, on a strange tongue, amongst these strange gods. It's up to us to come back to our commandments and shine our light. That's how we will free ourselves from slavery. And that is who Christ will come to redeem. Let's finish reading. 28. Then shall they know I am the Most High, their power, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered them unto their own land, and have left none of them any more there. He gonna come get us, y'all. He coming to get us. 29. Neither will I hide my face anymore from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, said the Most High. All praises to the Most High God for this reading. This has been by far the longest study that I've went into. I'm going to be sure to leave that link to that ebook that I have Christopher Columbus, and the participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. I'll leave that link in the description in this video. We just read about ourselves coming from greatness, King Solomon, all the way to Babylonian captivity. Then we read it in the bloodline and the lineage of Christ. Then we read him prophesying. Then we read Daniel prophesying about his return to redeem his remnant. Then we read while we ultimately were spread across the four corners of the earth, because our Christ knew that we would come back to his commandments. And throughout these four corners of the earth where they serve other gods and false Christs, we would be there to shine his light and spread his truth. That's our history. That's who we are. Israel. And our Christ soon cometh. All praises to the Most High God in the name of our Christ, Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit.